Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pari Raja Kacharya Ashtotara Shtata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pari Raja Kacharya Ashtotara Shtata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Gaurkishore Das Bhagaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Srila Satyananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Srila Jagannath Das Bhakti Maharaj Ki Jai. Jaya Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatan Raghunath Das Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Das Raghunath Sa Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Sor Ki Jai. Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Pranath Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, ISKCON Dharma Guru Vrinda Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai, Gora Permanente. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru Shri Guranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayam Namaskritya. Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devam Saraswatam Vyasam. Shito Jayam Hridayat. Nasta Preshu Abhadreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by the rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised for transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. You need the remote. Okay, so today is 4/21/24, and we're reading Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order, chapter 22, Prithvi Maharaj is meeting with the four Kumaras, and we'll be reading verse 21. Astre Shivan Eva Sunishito Nirnam Shemasya Sadriya Grimisheshu Hetu Asangatma Vyatirikta Atmani Ridharatir Brahmani Nirgune Chaya Shastre Shviyaneva Suni Chito Nirnam Shemasya Sadriyagmir Shishu Hetu Asangatma Vyatirikta Atmani Ridharatir Brahmani Nirgune Chaya Shastre Shviyaneva Sunishito Nirnam Shemasya Sadriyad Rimir Sheshu Hitu Asangatma Vyatirikta Atmani Ridharatir Brahmani Nirgune Chaya Shastre Shviyaneva Sunishito Nirnam Shemasya Sadriyagmir Misheshu Hetu Asangatma Vyatirikta Atmani Ridharatir Brahmani Nirgune Chaya. Okay, please chant.
Shastre Shviyaneva Sunishchito Nirnam
Shastre Shviyaneva Sunishchito Nirnam
Shemasya Sadriyat Vivreshishe Hetu
Shemasya Sadriyat Vivreshishu Hetu
Asanga Atma Vyatirikta Atmane
Asanga Atma Vyatirikta Atmani
Ridharatir Brahmani Nirgune Chaya
Ridharatir Brahmani Nirgune Chaya
Shastre Sunishchito Nirnam
Shastre Shviyaneva Sunishchito Nirnam
Shemasya Satriyaga Vimrisheshu Hetu
Shemasya Sadriya Grimreshishi Tutu
Asangatma Vyatirikta Atmani
Asangatma Vyatirikta Atmani
Ridharatir Brahmani Nirgune Chaya
Ridharatir Brahmani Nirgune Chaya. Shastre Shiyane Vasunichito Nirnam Shemasya Sadriya Krimreshishu Hetu Asangama Vyatirikta Atmani Vidaratir Brahmani Nirnichaya Shastre Shiyane Vasunichito Nirnam Shemasya Sadriya Krimreshishu Hetu Asangama Vyatirikta Atmani Vidaratir Brahmani Nirgunechaya Shastre Vaiva Suchinichitnam Simasya Sabriya Nimishishu Hetu Asangama Vyatirikta Atmani Vidaratir Brahmani Nirgunechaya. Word for word. Shastreshu. In the scriptures. Iyan Eva. This is only. Sunishchita. Positively concluded. Nirnam. Of human society. Kshemasya. Of the ultimate welfare. Sadriya. Perfectly. Vimresheshu. By full consideration. Hetuhu. Cause. Asanga. Detachment. Atmavyatirikte. The bodily concept of life. Atmani. Unto the Supreme Soul. Trita. Strong. Ratahi. Attachment. Brahmani. Transcendence. Nirgune. In the Supreme who is beyond the material modes. Cha. And. Ya. Which. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. It has been conclusively decided in the scriptures, after due consideration, that the ultimate goal for the welfare of human society is detachment from the bodily concept of life, and increased and steadfast attachment for the Supreme Lord, who is transcendental beyond the modes of material nature. Please repeat. It has been conclusively decided in the scriptures.
It has been conclusively decided in the scriptures.
After due consideration. That the ultimate goal for the welfare of human society. Is detachment from the bodily concept of life. And increased and steadfast attachment for the Supreme Lord. Who is transcendental. Beyond the modes of material nature. Purport. Everyone in human society is engaged for the ultimate benefit of life, but persons who are in the bodily conception cannot achieve the ultimate goal, nor can they understand what it is. The ultimate goal of life is described in Bhagavad Gita 2:5-9. Param drishta nivartate. When one finds out the supreme goal of life, he naturally becomes detached from the bodily concept. Here in this verse, the indication is that one has to steadfastly increase the attachment for the transcendence, Brahmani, as confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra 111. Atato Brahma Jinasya. Without inquiry about the supreme or the transcendence, one cannot give up attachment for this material world. By the evolutionary process in 8,400,000 species of life, one cannot understand the ultimate goal of life, because in all those species of life, the bodily conception is very prominent. Atato Brahma Jinasya means that in order to get out of the bodily conception, one has to increase attachment to or inquiry about Brahman. Then he can be situated in the transcendental devotional service, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. To increase attachment for Brahman means to engage in devotional service. Those who are attached to the impersonal form of Brahman cannot remain attached for very long. Impersonalists, after rejecting this world as mithya or false, yagan mithya, come down again to this yagan mithya. Although they take sannyas to increase their attachment for Brahman, similarly, many yogis who are attached to the localized aspect of Brahman as Paramatma, great sages like Vishwamitra, also fall down as victims of women. Therefore, increased attachment for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is advised in all sastras. That is the only way of detachment from material existence, and is explained in Bhagavad Gita 259. As param drishta nivartate, one can increase material activities when he actually has the taste for devotional service. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also recommended love of Godhead as the ultimate goal of life. Rimapam artho maham. Without increasing love of Godhead, one cannot achieve the perfectional stage of the transcendental position. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadativ Swapatantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagratatam Sahagana Raganatam Tam Jivam Savadetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Tamascha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabando Jagapate Gopesha Gopikala Kanta Radhakanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutidimi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakopatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, it's been a little while since I gave Bhagavatam class, so it was nice to see you all here. So this is a really nice verse, and it's talking about the ultimate goal of life. So what is that ultimate goal? I'm sure, hopefully most of us know here, but that's to realize we're not the body, that we're eternal spirit soul, and that we're servants of Krishna. And that is the ultimate goal of life. And then to act as a servant to Krishna. So people are afraid because they don't know the goal and because they're attached to the bodily conception of life. I had a friend call me the other day who was very scared because they were having some problems with their body. They were having some heart trouble, and it wasn't Kirtaneshwar, by the way. And they were scared. They were freaked out a little bit, and I explained to them that they were in a very good position because they had done a little bit of service for Krishna and the devotees. They had taken prasadam, and that they had an idea of what the ultimate goal of life was, even if they didn't have full realization on that idea yet. And so. But because of their attachment to their body and not being fully realized on what that goal of life is, they were very scared because they don't want to die, you know. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila 7-8, it says, religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation are known as the 4 goals of life. But before love of Godhead, the 5th and highest goal, these appear as insignificant as straw in the street. So there we see that love of Godhead, that is the highest goal, according to the Chaitanya Charitamrita. But we know most people are concerned with economic development, sense gratification, and that seems to be the vast majority of people. And then a smaller majority of people are concerned with liberation and religiosity. And we also know that in the Bhagavad Gita, verse 1866 says, abandon all varieties of religion and surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. That's Lord Krishna saying that. And so there again, he's telling us the goal of life is to abandon all those varieties of religion and just surrender unto him. So is this what, are these 2 goals compatible with the ultimate welfare of human society? So let's see what does the UN have to say about this, okay? The United Nations, right? So I looked up, what are the top concerns that people have in this current time? And so the UN compiled a list of the top 10, what do they call it? The top 10 world problems and their solutions. So not only did they make a list with the top 10 problems, but they had solutions for each of them. All right, so these are the top 10 problems according to the United Nations. Climate change, wars and military conflicts, water contamination, human rights violations, global health issues, global poverty, children's poor access to healthcare, education and safety, access to food and hunger, migration, and weapons accessibility. So here in the United States, I was reading this article because I wanted to know that last one, weapons accessibility, which way were they going on that? Because I know here in the United States, there's a lot of anxiety about losing our access to weapons, right? So many people are saying, they're trying to take our guns away. But the way the UN meant it is the other way. People are concerned that there's too much access to weapons, unlike a lot of people here in the US who are concerned there's not enough access to weapons. Either way, people are concerned about not having enough weapons or having too many weapons. And so these are the big concerns for all of humanity in this age, according to the United Nations. So this goal of life, as is stated in our scriptures, does that address these issues? Who thinks it addresses, or who doesn't? Anybody?
Yeah.
So the goal of life, as I stated before, which is love of Godhead, right? And serving Krishna, realizing we're not the body, realizing we're eternal spirit souls, and that everyone else is also eternal spirit souls, and that we're servants of Krishna. So that's the goal of life, as stated in our scriptures. That's what Krishna tells us. Our goal of life is to surrender unto him. So does that goal of life address these issues that the UN says? Yeah, Chris.
Well, if you're not concerned about your bodily conception of life, that pretty much wipes out all of them.
Yeah.
They become irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So climate change, climate change is happening a lot more rapidly, even though it naturally happens due to this natural fluctuations in our weather patterns and things like that. But we're helping it along because we're mistreating the earth, right? But if people realize that we're eternal spirit souls, that we're servants of Krishna, they would have to treat the planet a lot better when they realize everything belongs to him. So climate change would certainly be fixed if everybody could realize that I'm a spirit soul, you're a spirit soul, and I shouldn't be trying to take from you in order to make myself better, and that includes the earth too. The same with wars and military conflicts, right? You're not going to have as many wars and military conflicts. If you're realizing, oh, these people are spirit souls, I shouldn't be killing them. Or I shouldn't, if you're a leader and you're causing so much strife, there's famine is almost always a man-made thing, like crops fail, and that's true, but it's mismanagement of funds, mismanagement of lands that cause famine, because there's enough food sources on this planet for everybody, but they're just not allocated properly by mismanagement. And so a lot of wars and military conflicts are caused by mismanagement of resources as well, which, again, realizing that we're servants of Krishna and that we're all spirit souls, would really put a damper on that. Water contamination, again, this goes back to climate change, environmental issues. If people really realize that we're all spirit souls and that we're part and parcel of Krishna and that everything belongs to him, it'd be very difficult to pollute the water and just start dumping our garbage into the ocean, which we're all doing, even though we might not know that. Human rights violations, again, the same thing. Seeing that spirit soul as part and parcel of Krishna, it'd be very hard to violate their rights. Global health issues. People would take better care of themselves if they realize Krishna I'm part and parcel of Krishna, and I need to take care of my body so I can be a good servant, instead of just eating so many cheeseburgers and taking so many illicit drugs and things like that. Global poverty also all of these issues can be addressed by simply realizing the ultimate goal of life. So how do we know this is the goal, right? So we know this because it says so in our scriptures, by Lord Krishna, he says it, by Lord Chaitanya says it. Vyasadeva, who was the compiler of the Vedas and the Srimad Bhagavatam, was actually an incarnation of Krishna. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is the cream of all the Vedas. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is also Lord Krishna in book form. And so I just wanted to share, I remember when I got my Bhagavatam set and I put it in my room. It was very subtle, but like the energy in the room changed. It became more like a more sacred space, just from having that Bhagavatam present in there. And I've heard many devotees say, the Srimad Bhagavatam is just like having a deity of Krishna. And so did anyone else have an experience like that when they got a Bhagavatam set or anything like that? I see you shaking your head a little bit. Does that mean that's familiar to you, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
What about the first class I brought it to my house? It changed my house quite a bit.
Yeah, that's exactly what my experience too. So, and okay, so what do the scriptures tell us? Or first, let me read. These are some great. This is from some great verses and a little bit of their purports. So Bhagavad Gita 16:23 says, "He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness, nor the supreme destination." And then a little bit of the purport says, "A person who knowingly violates the rules acts in lust. He knows that this is forbidden, but he still acts. This is called acting whimsically. He knows that this should be done, but he still does not do it. Therefore, he is called whimsical. Such persons are destined to be condemned by the Supreme Lord. Such persons cannot have the perfection which is meant for the human life. The human life is especially meant for purifying one's existence, and one who does not follow the rules and regulations cannot purify himself, nor can he attain the real stage of happiness." So, right there, we can hear that, I think we've all probably done this. I'm recalling a time when it was cold out. Sometimes we cover the plants with blankets so they don't freeze, die. And I had to water the plants. And so I had to take the blankets off and water them. And I didn't like fold them neatly. And I knew I should have folded them neatly, but I just kind of left them crumpled up over there. And then later, Jiro Prabhu came by and said, oh, who left these blankets like this? Or maybe he knew it was me. I don't remember. And, and I said to him, oh, I said, it was me. I said, I knew I shouldn't do it, but I did it anyway. So I knew it was wrong for me to leave the blankets like that, but I did it anyway because I was being lazy, and so I'm sure that everybody's had an experience of that at some point in their life. And so when we know what the scriptures are saying and what we should do and what we shouldn't do, and we choose to not do it, then we're acting in lust, and we're not able to purify ourselves, and we can't attain the real stage of happiness. So the next verse, Bhagavad Gita 16:24 said, one should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act so that he may be gradually elevated. And then a little bit from that purport. Shastra is without the four principal defects that are visible in the soul: imperfect senses, the propensity for cheating, certainty of committing mistakes, and certainty of being illusioned. These four principal defects in conditioned life disqualify one from putting forth rules and regulations. Therefore, the rules and regulations as described in the Shastra, being above these defects, are accepted without alteration by all saints, acharyas, and great souls. So there, again, we know that if we follow the rules and regulations that are set forth in the scriptures, then we're able to be gradually elevated. And that's why we should follow those rules. And I think I've heard some people say, well, I don't need to follow the rules. I just love Krishna, and that's great that you love Krishna, but following the rules and regulations really helps you build that relationship with Krishna and helps you purify yourself so you can deepen your relationship. So what do the scriptures tell us? So we know the scriptures tell us that we're not the body. Bhagavad Gita 2:20 says, for the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. So that shows a very distinct separation between the spirit and the soul. So the body dies, but we live on. So we all know that. So then the goal of life is what we talked about earlier, what Lord Chaitanya said about the goal of life being love of Godhead. That's the highest goal. And then how do we get there? So we need to inquire about God, about the nature of the soul, the purpose of life. And so many people live their whole lives thinking that the goal of life is to feel good, and to have a nice family, to maybe do some service for the community, and to acquire nice things, a nice house, a nice car. And so many people spend their entire lives just dealing with all that stuff, and they never get around to actually questioning, who am I? Why am I here? What is the purpose of life? Who is God? And these are all very important. We need to do that in order to become attached to Krishna and detached from the material nature. So becoming detached from material, or becoming attached to Krishna, is the same as becoming detached from the material nature. And that's because attachment to Krishna is so much better than attachment to money or to women or men or to cars or to any of those things. And so all of those things, once you're attached to the Supreme Lord, you don't even want those things anymore. And I think most of us have probably experienced this on some level, or we wouldn't be here every day, every morning, because I used to have a very strong attachment to my bed. I was very attached. I liked to stay in it in the morning and sleep. But now my attachment to serving Krishna and to seeing the deities and seeing the devotees is much stronger than that. And so even if I tried to stay in my bed and rekindle that attachment I used to have, it just doesn't work, because then I just lay there in anxiety and then wondering, oh, how are the devotees? What are they doing? What am I missing? Even though we literally do the same thing every day, it's still ever fresh, because that attachment is developing. So let's see. Okay, so how do we get there? How do we get to that attachment, right? We were talking about inquiring. So Bhagavad Gita 4:34 says, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service up to him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. And that's very important, because we know the spiritual master. You want to find, when you're looking for a spiritual master, you want to find someone who's seen the truth. And that's how they're able to give it to you, because the knowledge comes from a disciplic succession. It doesn't come from their own speculations, right? It comes from our scriptures and from Krishna all the way down, which was then recorded in our scriptures. And so that's when we make these inquiries, that's how you know that these are bona fide answers. Are they in the scriptures? Is that what sadhus say? Sorry. And so Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, right? We want to make sure that that we get all those answers from those sources, instead of, just the guy at the Circle K, or oh, my auntie, she knows so much. But is what she's saying in agreement with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra? All right. So we want to get that higher taste, because that is going to allow us to detach from the material world and detach from that material energy and attach towards Krishna. So I've given this example so many times, but if I have like a Ford Focus car, or someone's offering me to give me a Ford Focus, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that's great, sure, I would love to have that, thank you. But then later on, someone says, oh, well, I have this Mercedes Benz, would you like that? Well, of course, I'd much prefer to have that than the Ford Focus, because it's a higher taste, right? Suddenly that Ford Focus doesn't look so good anymore, and this is like getting the higher taste of service to Krishna. So, does anybody have any experiences where they were able to give up something they thought they would never be able to give up? Yeah. Yeah, alcohol, and yeah. For me as well, intoxication was something I remember when I was very young, hearing my friends saying, "Oh, I could never live without intoxication," and I remember sort of thinking, yeah, that seems pretty impossible, but it's not, because now I couldn't even imagine getting intoxicated. It just blows my mind to think like, oh, I would not even want to do that. And then I always looked at it as, my consciousness was so low at that point that the intoxication sort of raised it up a little bit. But now my consciousness is a little bit higher, that if I were to take intoxication, it would lower my consciousness quite a bit. So, anybody else? Anyone else? No? All right. So, Bhagavad Gita 12:6-7, it says, but those who worship me, and this is Krishna speaking, those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engage in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Buddha. For them, I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So Krishna's telling us what to do right there, to worship him, to give up all their activity, or all our activities up to him, and to be devoted to him without deviation. So this can take practice to do in reality, and we do that by following the rules that are set forth in the scriptures. So once we do that, we become purified, and it becomes like second nature to become devoted to Krishna and devote all our activities to him. Okay, so now I wanted to talk about since we were talking about the scriptures and how wonderful and authoritative the scriptures are, I wanted to talk about the fish incarnation of the Lord Matsya. Okay, so, huh? No. Did I not talk about him if it's not his appearance date? No, because I was trying to think of a story that I could relate to the Vedas, and Matsya came and saved the Vedas. So we're going to talk about that. So at the end of the previous kalpa, a demon named Hayagriva, he stole the Vedas from Lord Brahma because he wanted all that knowledge. Well, he was trying to get all that knowledge. It says it in the Bhagavatam. Huh? It says the demon was also named Hayagriva. Yeah. So this is what the Bhagavatam says. Sorry, guys.
Everybody to get rid of that knowledge so that everybody stay in darkness.
Yeah. So he stole the Vedas from Lord Brahma, and so the Lord incarnated as a fish to save the Vedas. So one day there was this king, Satyavrata. He was a king, and he was practicing some austerities. And the austerity that he was practicing was drinking only water. And so he was at the river one day praying and practicing his austerities. And so he grabbed up some water in his hands to drink it, and he saw a little tiny fish in there. And so he started to put the fish back into the water. And the fish said, "No, wait, please." And the fish begged for his protection because he didn't want to be eaten by the other bigger fish in the water. So the king said, "Okay, well, I can't let this little fish be eaten by the other fish. I need to protect him. He's asking for my protection." So he put him in his little water. He had like a little water jug. So he put him in there. And sometime later, he thought, okay, the fish will be safe in there. He'll be safe. And in some versions of the story, like he went to sleep and he was woken up by hearing the fish calling, "Please help me, I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And so he goes and he looks, and the fish had grown, and he was too big for the little water jug. And so he's sort of gasping for air because he's not in the water anymore. He's just sort of, like one fin in the little jug, and the rest of them hanging out. And so the king got a bigger container, and he put the little fish in there, or I guess by now he's a medium-sized fish. And a little bit later, he realized the fish had outgrown even that container. So he said, "Oh my goodness, what is happening here?" So he got an even bigger container, and he put the fish in there, and everything was okay for a little bit. And sure enough, the little fish got even bigger. So he's like, "Okay, I'm going to put this fish in the well." So he puts his fish, the little fish, in the well, and soon the fish is outgrowing the well too. He's just like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" So the king takes the little fish and he puts him in a lake, and again the fish outgrows the lake, and so the king is just really puzzled. He puts him in some rivers, in one river, and he outgrows that river. He puts him in another river. He outgrows that river, and he's just like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to put you in the ocean now. So the fish, he puts the fish in the ocean, and the fish grows so large, he's taking up like half the ocean. And at that point, the king realized, oh my goodness, this is definitely the Supreme Lord. And that's when he realized that. And so then the fish tells him, he lets him know, he said, there's going to be a big deluge, there's going to be a huge flood. So I need you to gather up some sages, I need you to gather up some herbs, some seeds, some animals, and there's going to be a boat, and you need to get on that boat because there's going to be this big flood. And those of you that are familiar with the Christian stories, that's also what happened to Noah, right? Noah except it wasn't a fish that told him. I don't really remember there being any specification about how Noah found out about the flood coming. But yeah, very similar story. So the king gathers all these things, and he finds this boat, and they all get on the boat, and the flood comes. And then at some point, the fish had told him, make sure you bring Vasuki, the snake god. And so he did. And when the flood was happening, the fish, he grew this big horn, kind of like a narwhal or like a unicorn, big horn. And so the Lord said to the king, take Vasuki, tie him to my horn, and tie the other end to the boat, and I will take you to safety. And he did. And then, so also around the same time, the Lord found the demon that had taken the Vedas kind of hanging out in the bottom of the ocean, hanging around the Vedas. And so they fought, and he took the Vedas back from him. And then he then instructed the king and all the sages that were also on the boat in the Vedas, in the Vedic knowledge. And later that king, in his next life, he became Manu, who is our current Manu. So that's the story of Matsya. And so with that, that's really all I have. So if anybody has any stories they would like to share, or a favorite realization they have about the importance of scripture in their lives, please share. Otherwise, we'll just end. Did you go run out and Google it? Is that what you were doing?
There's the Hayagriva demon, and then there's the Hayagriva Godhead horse, and that the horse-headed incarnation Hayagriva fights the Hayagriva horse at one point. So
Can you say it louder?
that said that well, as far as I know, Hayagriva was killed by Madhusudan. But anyways, he fights the horse-headed Hayagriva fights the demon Hayagriva.
Oh, really? They fight each other?
So
Okay. Interesting.
I saw that it's in another Quran maybe. How you have been given boon by Goddess Durga that she can be only killed by another high giver. So Lord had to take that high giver form. He could not defeat it by other forms. So
Yeah.
one Purana. Other Purana I saw the Madhu in fight out stole the and then the Lord killed him.
that's what I remember. About
Different versions.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll end there. I know it's a little early, but I'm out of practice, so please forgive me. Oh, yeah, Chandrika.
So you were mentioning about, us giving up things because we don't need all these things anymore, which is true. I think when we become a devotee, we let go of the I, so these things don't belong to us. But we should still have the desire to have things for Krishna. So, like if a car does come to us, instead of rejecting it, no, we'll take it, we'll utilize it for Krishna's service. So it's not that we should let go of as an I, we should let go of it. But as a devotee, we should want all these things so that they could be utilized in Krishna's energy.
Yeah, that's a great point, of course. Yeah, we can use everything in Krishna's service. So yeah, I don't. Becoming a true renounced, being renounced like a true renounced person, it doesn't mean that they just give away all their things. It means that they are using everything they have in the service of Krishna. So, yeah, it doesn't mean like getting rid of your car. It means using your car to take the devotees to Harinam or bring prasadam to others or whatever it is that you need to do. But exactly right. Yeah, to instead of thinking, what can this object do for me? Think, what can this object do for Krishna? So, yeah, very nice. All right.
Since there's a time budget, just thought I'd share that. Mahotsava Prabhu just broke the world record for book distribution again. A total of 5,000 something books in one day, 55 Srimad Bhagavatam sets in one day. So, Mahotsava.
Where was that? Do you know?
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Yeah. Mahotsava Prabhu.
Atlanta is going to become a epicenter of spiritual enlightenment.
Yeah, 5,035 books in one day with 55 Srimad Bhagavatam sets.
Yeah. He's using.
He's just, you have to see him. He's like not a human being when it comes to book distribution. He's just incredible.
I ran into him once and I left with like a stack of books this high. So.
Which one is he? Is he American?
He's Indian American. No, he was in New York and now he's in Atlanta. He's a Bhakti Vikash Swami.
Yeah. Is it just street Sankirtan or does he go to corporations?
Even a street Sankirtan, Parameshwar told me. Parameshwar was like, I didn't believe it, so I went to see. So Parameshwar said he distributed 18 Bhagavatam sets in the street in one day. He just has a potency. He's like empowered to the max.
And he's using whatever he can in Krishna's service, and Krishna is carrying what he lacks and preserving what he has. So, yeah, very nice. All right, I think we'll end there. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.